Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Keto. I'm Dre and I do a weekly vlog and weekly meal prep videos to share my keto weight loss journey. This is my second time around with keto. I had a very hard 2020, as I know a lot of us did, but I restarted keto in January of 2021 and have lost over 50 pounds so far. So I normally eat 2 meals a day and a small bulletproof coffee. So I meal prep for 3 meals every week. And this week we are making pizza chaffles, chicken wings, and taco soup. So let's go ahead and get started. So here are all of the ingredients for the recipes I'm gonna make today. So over here on this side, we have the ingredients for the chaffle pizzas. So with the chaffle, we are gonna use some egg whites. We have some almond flour, some xanthan gum, and then some mozzarella cheese. That's normally the ingredients for a chaffle, but to make this a little bit more like pizza, I am gonna add some garlic powder, some Italian seasoning, and I'm gonna add a little bit of butter. So like if you have a regular pizza, a lot of times they put butter in the crust or it tastes buttery, and that's kind of what I'm going for. On top of the pizzas, I do have this hot Italian sausage. I could only find the links that had good ingredients. Everything else I found had a lot of sugar in it. So I did get the links, and I'll probably just end up taking them out of the casing and browning some of that up to put on top of my pizzas. I have some pepperoni here to put on top, and then some mushrooms over here that I'm gonna saute in a pan, and then also my pasta sauce and some more mozzarella cheese on top of the pizzas. Next, I have the ingredients for my chicken wings, and these are gonna be really easy. I mean, it's chicken wings, and I have the Frank's Red Hot sauce. I really like this one. The ingredients are pretty good. And then I do have all of my seasonings that I'm going to put on the chicken wings. So in this seasoning, I have baking powder, garlic powder, onion powder, salt and pepper, and I'll link the recipe below. The recipe is not 100% keto. They do say to add some honey in the sauce, and I'm just not gonna do that. I'm gonna skip that step. But the baking powder is what makes these chicken wings crispy. So this is why I like this particular recipe. For the taco soup, this is the first time I'm making this particular recipe. Over here, I have my ground beef, my cream cheese, and then I have some rotel to put in there as well. Then I have all the spices. This one calls for some adobo. The recipe does call for some taco seasonings, but as we all know, a lot of times in those taco seasoning packets that you'll get pre-made at a store, they'll have cornstarch or some other kind of like flour to thicken it, and I definitely don't want that. So I just have the ingredients I normally would put in taco seasoning. So that's garlic powder, onion powder, oregano, cumin, and some chili powder. And then I do have real garlic in here as well. The recipe does not call for onions, but I thought that was a little odd. And like, I don't even know if onion powder is in the recipe or not. I have it over here, but I have some frozen chopped onions, so we're gonna use that today. And then I also have some Mexican shredded cheese and Quincy over here to put on top, to sprinkle on top. And obviously not gonna sprinkle Quincy on there, but some cheese. The first thing I'm gonna make is the taco soup, because I'm gonna use that in the crock pot setting in my Ninja Foodie, and that's gonna take a couple hours, and then we'll get started on the chicken wings, and then the chaffles will be last. So we're gonna get started on the taco soup. The first thing I'm gonna do is brown my ground beef, and I will post a link to the recipe that I followed in the description below, although I will tell you I'm not gonna 100% follow it. This does call to like cook it in on a different pot, and I don't really want to clean another pot, so I'm gonna clean it. I'm gonna saute it here first, and then add all the toppings. So the recipe does call to add all your spices here. It does say adobo or taco seasoning, so I'm gonna add a little bit of the adobo, but just what I would normally put is taco seasonings. There are measurements on this, and I'm honestly not gonna follow them. I'm just gonna put a bunch of seasonings in here. What I'm adding in here is chili powder, some oregano, some onion powder, garlic, and cumin. I also added some salt and adobo, and it does say to drain the meat. And sometimes I have skipped that step and then I regret it later, so I'm actually gonna follow directions on this one and drain it. So now I'm gonna add in some of the frozen onions. I really like about the recipes I'm making this week is I really don't have to chop anything. So I'm gonna just eyeball this. When I'm making soup, I really don't mind frozen veggies because to me it doesn't really matter. They are adding flavor, but I don't need to like brown them up or anything. They're just gonna cook with the rest of the soup. So I'm gonna put the last of my ingredients now, which is gonna be my can of Rotel and my cream cheese. So apparently I was supposed to use some adobo when I was browning the meat and then the rest of the adobo after. So I went ahead and added a little bit more adobo. I'm also going to add a couple cups of water. It calls for chicken broth, but I don't have any, so I'm gonna use this better than bouillon to add a little bit of the chicken in there. I think honestly, you're probably fine with just water if you only have water. So I went ahead and mixed everything up, and now I'm just gonna put it on slow cook for 2 hours, and the taco soup is ready to go. Currently I need to figure out how to use my Ninja Foodie because I needed the different lid on there. And next we're gonna get started on the chicken wings and get those in the oven. Okay, for the chicken wings, this is gonna be really easy. First, you do wanna make sure that your chicken wings are pretty dry, and so I blot mine with a paper towel. Then I'm gonna sprinkle all of my seasonings on it. So if you remember, this is really just baking powder, salt, pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. So it's not really too complicated, but the baking powder is what really makes these crispy, especially when you're baking and not like frying chicken wings. And then I'm going to get them onto this baking sheet. And you know what, I've learned this the hard way. I wanna oil this up just a little bit. I'm just gonna take my avocado oil and put some on my hands and kind of rub it on. I don't wanna make this too complicated. And then we're just gonna get them on our baking sheet. And this is what really makes them kind of crispy, is cooking them on a baking sheet and the baking powder. So normally I would have a side to go with my wings, and I don't know why I totally spaced it. I do have some broccoli and I have some other vegetables that I could definitely eat with this. But this doesn't seem like very many wings. Honestly, this may be 2, maybe 3 meals for me. So I might have to think of an extra 4th meal. And honestly, with the Chaffle pizzas, I probably could make several of those. So I'm not too worried about that. But I'm gonna go ahead and pop these in the oven for about 45 minutes. I do have the recipe linked in the description below for these. It's very easy, but I do wanna make sure that I link you to the recipes that I follow because they are not my recipes. So let's get started on the pizzas. So to get started on our Chaffle pizzas, the first thing I'm gonna do is make the toppings for the pizzas. So you do wanna have everything cooked ahead of time. You really aren't gonna have enough time under a broiler or in the oven for your pizzas to really cook all the toppings. Really, you wanna cook everything ahead of time, assemble them, and then brown them and crisp them at the end. So I'm gonna put some of my mushrooms in this pot, and then I am going to use 2 of the sausages. This is just like hot Italian sausage, and I'm gonna cook that over here so we have some sausage to put on top of our pizzas. So to the mushrooms, I added some avocado oil and some garlic powder and onion powder. I am gonna add some salt, and I usually like to add that a little bit towards the end. I feel like if you salt them too early, it just takes all the moisture out, and then you're gonna have a big pool of water under there. And then for my sausages, I took them out of the casing and I put them in here. Then I'm gonna use our spatulator. I did wash this. So I like the spatulator, but I always feel like stuff gets all stuck in there, and then I have to get something else to get it out of there. So I'm gonna let these cook for a bit, and while these are cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and get my ingredients together for our chaffles. So we're ready to make the chaffles now. In this bowl, I have my normal chaffle recipe, which is in the description below. So I have about a tablespoon of almond flour, a half teaspoon of xanthan gum, and a 1/4 cup of cheese. So I have that in here. I like to pre-mix all the dry ingredients first before I add in the wet. And then I'm gonna add my egg whites. So I think some of you may have tried chaffles before and you say they taste eggy, but to me it's the yolk that makes them taste eggy. So the egg white kind of takes away that eggy flavor. So I added 3 tablespoons of egg whites, which is equivalent to 1 egg white from an actual like large egg. So I am gonna change this up for pizzas. I am gonna add about a 1/2 tablespoon of melted butter and some garlic powder and some Italian seasoning. So here is what it looks like. It's really gonna be pretty much the same consistency as a normal chaffle, but this one you'll have just some extra seasonings in it. And that's one of the nice things you can do with any chaffles that you're making. The base recipe is really easy to change up, make it sweet, make it savory, make it Italian, make it any other flavors that you want. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this to my chaffle maker, waffle maker, and we're gonna let these cook up. But when you put your chaffle mixture in the waffles, you do want to spread them out. They will spread out some, but they won't spread out all the way to the edges. So if you actually want them circles, I'd spread it out a bit. And then also I try to make sure that it doesn't lock down here. This maker, the one that it makes 4, does have a lock, and you don't want that pressure kind of building up. It will expand, so I just waited until it was expanded and made sure it didn't lock. And my sausage and mushrooms are done. So basically we're just waiting for the chaffles to get done, and they'll be done once the steam is gone, then you know that they're done. And then we'll assemble the pizzas. Okay, so my chaffles are done and out of the maker. So you can see these got a little crispy. I'm not too worried about it. I think crispy is actually probably a good thing for this. But letting them sit on a drying rack for a little bit is the best idea to keep them as crispy as possible. So the last thing that I'm gonna do is add all of my toppings. So over here, I do have some pepperoni, my sausage, mushrooms, cheese, and a little bit of green chilies. I do like heat. I think we all remember that. I like to put jalapenos and chilies on everything. So the first thing we're gonna do is put the chili on. I always feel like it's so much easier to get the chili on the chaffles before the sauce than after the sauce. And I know that may not seem like much, but those chilies are fire. So we're gonna put a little bit on there, and then we're going to put some of our sauce on there. And you really don't need a ton. I mean, maybe a teaspoon or 2, and honestly that's probably enough, right? Not too much, because we don't want it to make it soggy. I have made this a couple different ways too. Sometimes I won't put sauce in at all and then use the sauce for dipping after if you feel like your chaffles get too soggy, but I'm not too worried about it. For the cheese, I am going to sprinkle just a little bit to make this as like a glue for the rest of my toppings when everything melts together, and then I'll put some more on top. So let's get our pepperoni. Then our sausage. And some mushrooms. Really, the only issue with toppings is getting your toppings to actually stay on the pizzas. And then I'm gonna top with some cheese. I probably should have put like a plate or something under this because I'm making a mess on the counter underneath. I'm gonna put this in the oven under the broiler, and my chicken wings just came out. Honestly, cooking all this stuff does not take as long as I took. I really have to set up my camera and everything, but all of this really would probably take you like an hour to cook all your meals for the week. The pizzas do require some assembly when it is time to eat, but if you have all of your toppings and everything ready to go, then all you need to do is put them on and put them in the oven. You can pre-make the chaffles if you'd like. I do find that they are crispier right out of the oven than if I cook them ahead of time and then try to, you know, warm them up later. But if you do want to warm them up later, I would recommend putting them in the air fryer or putting them under the broiler to toast for a little bit to get them crispy again. So my chicken wings are out of the oven, so I'm gonna go ahead and put these under the broiler for a couple minutes just to get all of the cheese to melt and get all of the toppings to brown up. So there's a closer picture of it, but I'll show you after because it will look better. Again, I thought I was recording and I wasn't, like I did in the last video. So I went ahead and added my hot sauce to my chicken wings. So you can see them over here, mixed them up in a bowl. I just used the Frank's Red Hot sauce. I used some butter in there as well, and then some of Hungry Heat's 5 Spice. So this is really spicy. It's made with a lot of different chilies. So this is so delicious and it's spicy, and that's what I wanted to do here. Then I forgot to mention while I was making the pizzas, the sauce that I used. So I use this Muir Glen sauce. I know Rao's or Rao's, or however you say that, is everyone's favorite, but that one is expensive, and this really only has one more carb in a serving than the Rao's does, and it's a couple dollars less. So I opted for this, and I only used a couple teaspoons, so I didn't really use that much. So here are the pizzas. These turned out so good. I just put them under the broiler for about 4 minutes to let the cheese kind of brown up like that, and you can kind of, they're still kind of crispy, so I'm happy about that. I also want to try a wing, but my taco soup is not quite done yet, so I'll try that in just a little bit. Okay, so first let's try a chicken wing, and I honestly don't know how you're supposed to elegantly eat these without getting them everywhere, but I'm gonna try. Whoa, that 5 Spice is definitely adding a kick. I love that. Obviously, you could add on some ranch or whatever, you know, blue cheese dressing if you want to dip it in there, cut the heat a little bit. But those are so good. Looking forward to eating those for sure. And now we're going to try this pizza. It's so good. I mean, it tastes like pizza. It tastes like something I ordered, you know, from a pizza place. I don't know if you could hear that, but there was a crunch when I took a bite. I can taste the butter. I can taste the Italian seasoning and everything I put in there, all the toppings. So I'm gonna eat both of these pizzas for dinner today, but I do wanna come back and give the taco soup a try once that's done. And take another bite. Okay, so the taco soup is now done. I'll go ahead and put a picture here so you can take a look and see what it looks like in the pot. But I do have a little bowl here. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of cheese on top, just some of the Mexican shredded cheese. And I know that you can buy your own cheese, but I want this to be a quick meal prep, so I'm not gonna shred my own cheese this week. So here we go. Gosh, that's hot. And that's really good. So according to the recipe that I followed, the pot of soup that I made will make 4 different servings. Each serving is about 530 calories. Looks like 5 carbs. I don't know if this is net or total. 1 fiber and 25 grams of protein. I mean, it's pretty good. I don't always post the macros of any of the meals that I make. I know a lot of times when I'm using whole foods, the carbs aren't as high. When it comes to the pizzas, you're probably only getting some carbs from the almond flour. You can always omit the almond flour and make it more of just a cheese and egg chaffle, which I know a lot of people do, but I do like how the almond flour adds to the texture. Then on the chaffle, you probably have a little bit of carbs in the sauce, but also not really a lot of carbs in the toppings. With the wings, there's hardly any carbs in that. There's not any carbs in the wings itself. You might get a little bit of carbs in any of the sides that you choose to pair it with, in the ranch dressing that you put on top of it. There are no carbs in the Frank's Red Hot sauce. So there's really just not a lot of carbs in these meals in general. When it comes to the taco soup, the most of those carbs are gonna come from the rotel that's in there. There's probably a little bit of carbs in the cream cheese. What else? Maybe the onions that I added, some of the seasonings. But again, you're looking maybe 5-6 carbs for a meal. I know a lot of people track out there, and I think it's a really good idea to track when you first start, so you get an idea of how much is in all of the foods that you're eating. But honestly, if you are sticking to whole foods and eating, meat, veggies, cheese, dairy, you're not getting that many carbs. A lot of the carbs that people get are from a lot of the keto treats that come out, some of the almond flours. There's just a lot of things in those pre-processed like keto snacks. So those are the things that I would avoid or limit. But I'm gonna go ahead and eat the rest of this soup. I already ate those pizzas. They were so good. And of course, the 1 chicken wing that I had. I'm really not trying to make a humongous meal tonight. I wanna be able to try everything in just little portions, but I did want the pizza for dinner. I haven't posted an update on my weight or my progress in probably 3 or so weeks, but I do want to post a video, or I am going to post a video in the next couple days with the whole year-end recap, so we can go through and see how I did for the entire year of keto. So keep an eye out for that one. I'm also going to be posting another video with my top tips on starting keto. I know there are a lot of you out there right now that may be starting keto for the first time. You're doing a little bit of research, trying to get some recipes and ideas on things that you can make on keto. So I am gonna post that with all of my tips and a couple of tips I've got from other, keto influencers. But that's all that I have for today. So please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the little bell icon to get a notification every time I post a new video. I will see you soon. Bye.